I just got back from spending about the better part of 10 years in the Philippines running different call centers over there and different VA offices. And I can tell you from being able to see what happens on the back end that the way that outsourcing is approached by small companies is completely different than it is from larger companies. So I want to share this information with you because I think that it's going to be valuable, because a lot of companies end up having to rebuild their processes midstream once they start scaling up. And if they'd set things up right from the beginning, or at least in a way that was able to scale easier, then they'd be able to avoid hitting that speed bump. So let's get into it. So the trailhead's right around the corner. We're walking over there. But before we get going down the trail here, I want to tell you a little bit about where we're going. So with the small businesses, typically where they're trying to go is they're trying to go to a place where they're going to get a ROI as quickly as possible. In terms of the reliability of what they're building, that normally is not the first thing that they're thinking about, because they got their bills that they need to pay. They're trying to make payroll. They just need it to happen right now. There's a good chance it won't. And if it doesn't, then what's the point of spending all the time on a system that you wouldn't use? You can have a training system and an SOP system where you've documented all these different tasks out, and you have the most reliable thing in the world. None of that matters if you're at a point where you're going to be changing your system, because then you're going to be changing your process and you're going to have to go update all that documentation again. So there's kind of like a thing that happens with the smaller companies where they have different priorities, and then they're really going through a phase where they're trying to throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So the Fortune 500 companies, they do it completely differently. So the Fortune 500s are on a completely different mode in terms of the scale that they're on. Typically the size of the teams are going to be larger than you're going to find during the startup. So scale wise on that side, they're bigger, but more so what I'm talking about is the time frame. The way that the big guys do it is they want to make sure that they're building something to last, that once it's gone, it's going to regenerate. So right behind me here are these giant trees, huge redwood trees. And what these trees do is they have a plan to be able to keep regenerating. So when you see a circle like this, typically what happens is that's the result of, there used to be a giant tree in the middle, got cut down. The stump regenerated out this circle of other ones so that the tree doesn't actually die. That's kind of a similar thing to what the Fortune 500 guys are trying to do, because when they make a team, they want it to be there and to be able to stand the test of time. They know that the typical turnover rate among their teams is a lot less than how long they're going to be having the teams. So one of the things that they really focus on, because they want to be able to scale it, they want to be able to maintain it for the long run, is their ability to retrain and onboard any people that need to come on to replace anybody that's had to leave the team because of lack of performance, or maybe they had personal issues where they had to resign for whatever reason, but they're able to deal with that turnover. So when you're building a turnover resistant system that's going to be around for a lot longer, you're going to come at it a different way. So what I'm trying to say is that there's two, different sides of it, where it's not a one size fits all solution, and there's a reason why many small businesses do it differently than Fortune 500 companies. But in the long run, if they keep growing, that's where they're going to end up. So for some things, instead of having to start and then get it all going one way and then rebuild it again so it can be scaled later, it can make more sense to scale it right the first time so you don't have to worry about it rebuilding that whole process at a later time. So that's why I'm trying to share this information with you, because a lot of people, they're doing it one way, but in the long run they're just creating more work for themselves because they don't know. So this is important information to have. All right, so let's talk about like some of the specifics of how they're approaching things differently here. Between the small companies, they're looking for the people. They're wanting to train up specific people, and they're not really going down the whole, what are we going to do when this person's gone? So they're very trying to get that person trained as quickly as possible with the least amount of effort to be able to get them online as efficiently as possible in the short term. Okay. With the other companies that are coming at it from a larger scale, they're trying to break it down into a much more scalable sort of approach. So instead of having to find something special, like there's this big mushroom right here, let's say that's the individual like superstar VA. I've been walking around this forest for a while this afternoon, and that's the only one of those that I've seen. If you're trying to run it with like these bushes over here on this side, they've been lining the trail the entire time. So the larger corporations are trying to set up the process to where their tasks are organized in a way that they're able to do it without needing that superstar, where they have it organized to where they're able to get more of a kind of layperson, predictable, reliable employee to be able to come in and get things taken care of. So that's like the main difference that you're going to see is you're going to see a focus on processes, documentation, the ability to be able to look over the KPIs of the team, and if some people aren't meeting it, then they want to be able to cycle them out efficiently and be able to get new people on, not be super reliant on an individual person. Where the smaller companies, at least in the beginning, they're trying to just get that person online as fast as possible. And normally it's going to be, okay, let's train together, and I'm going to invest a bunch of time to be able to go through that training with you. But what's going to happen is that when that person's gone, you're going to have to do it all over again with the next person. So even if it takes you twice as long to do the documentation of the training, to be able to give them something that's not going to have as much of a cost on your time, and drain that as much every time, to focus on that is going to save you a lot in the long run. However, like we touched on before, if the process is going to change, or if it's something that's so small scale, you're not going to hire somebody again to do that. It's not a repeatable task. Maybe it just makes sense to just do the quick and dirty way. But a little bit more clarity on the differences. I think it's going to start raining here, so let's get down the trail. All right, so to sum it up, the little companies, they build it that way so that they can hire easily, and the big companies, they build it that way so that they can fire easily. In the end, that's how they're able to get a better return on the shareholders' wealth, is by making a system that can scale and allows them to quickly be able to cycle out low performers or deal with any turnover that happens. My company builds out teams for larger teams like that. So if you need help with any of it, get in touch with me. For this year, what I'm trying to do is for the people that are too small to be able to work with us, I'm gonna try and give them as much information as I can to be able to help them out. I think that's going to be a helpful thing. So if you're in the mode where, you know, you want what I do done for you, I can help with that. And if not, then I still want to help and give you any of the information that I can. But I can't run those kind of teams, unfortunately. So hopefully the information's helpful. I'm just starting with the old man blogging method, and my videos are still pretty rough, but I'm working on it. They probably suck right now, so if you could tell me how they suck, I would be grateful, because then I can make them better faster. Learning is all about, you know, figuring out what doesn't work and then going from there. So anyway, thanks for watching, and enjoy.